Okay, now we have a question about a parallelogram problem. So we should think about what do we remember about all parallelograms. So all parallelograms have opposite sides parallel. All parallelograms have opposite sides congruent. All parallelograms have opposite angles congruent. All parallelograms have diagonals that bisect each other. So some parallelograms have like a long diagonal and a short diagonal. For example, a rhombus. This is meant to be a rhombus. This is meant to be parallel sides, where all the sides are the same, and you see it has a long diagonal and a much shorter diagonal. But in any parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other. So this is the same as this, and this is the same as this. And that's enough talking about parallelograms right now. The other thing we could say is that consecutive angles are supplementary. Like if you have a 60 here, then this is 120 because they add to 180, consecutive angles. All right, so we have AD equal 2x. We have AC equal x squared minus 9. We have BD equal 8x. And it asks us to find the perimeter when we're done. So in order to find out what x is, well, let's say we wanted to label this. This would just be 2x. If we set 2x equal to 2x, we're not really going to get anywhere with that because they're the same on both sides of the equation. And don't do anything with 360 degrees here. This is not about the angles. This is about how long the sides are. So nothing to do with angles, nothing to do with degrees, nothing to do with 360. What we know is these opposite sides are congruent, so we should set those expressions equal to each other. So we have x squared minus 9 equals 8x. We see that this has a quadratic piece to it, so we'll solve it by equaling the equation to 0. So we'll subtract 8x from both sides and say that x squared minus 8x minus 9 equals 0. Now our master product is negative 9 times 1, which is negative 9, and our sum is negative 8. So we're looking for numbers that will multiply to equal negative 9 and add to equal negative 8. So we could have like 3 and negative 3, but those add to equal 0, and we need to add to equal negative 8. So we want 9 and 1, and the negative 1 should be the negative 9, so that negative 9 plus positive 1 is negative 8. So now we rewrite this, but instead of minus 8x, we have minus 9x, then plus 1x, and we see that those added together is negative 8x. Now we factor by grouping. This is equal to 0. Factor by grouping. So now we'll look at the first two terms and see what can we factor out. Can we factor out a greatest common factor like 2 or 3? No, but we can factor out x, 1x. So I have x on the outside, and on the inside I'm left with x minus 9. I can check that. X times x is x squared. X times negative 9 is negative 9x. Now we'll look to factor on the second two terms. We have plus 1x minus 9. So there's nothing in common there. So when there's nothing in common, we'll just put a 1. And the 1 we put should be positive. And then this needs to match this. So let's see if x minus 9 works. Plus 1 times x is plus 1x. Plus 1 times minus 9 is minus 9. So that does work. Now rewrite our factors. X plus 1 from the outside. That's this. And x minus 9 from the inside equals 0. X equal negative 1. Maybe. X equal 9? Maybe. So finally, let's see which of these answers make sense. Maybe they both make sense. So let's try x equal -1. That would not make sense here because you'd have -1 times 2 is a length of -2. We can't have a negative length. So that means that we reject x equal -1 as a solution. X equal 9, let's see, 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 8 is 72. That works fine. So now we're finding how long these sides are. We have 18, 72, and then we know that these sides are congruent to their opposite sides. So you have 18, 18, 72, 72. That's 72 plus 72 plus 18 plus 18. Fastest way to do that mentally is to see that 72 plus 18 is 90, so you have 90 plus 90, so you have 180, and we'll call these units. We should say that that equals something, so we'll say that equals P for perimeter.